welcome to this AACTA Nominees session. My name's Kingston Anderson, I'm the CEO of the Australian Directors Guild. When we do these sessions, the Directors Guild, we invite all the directors from both the TV drama and the feature film nominated awards. So that's usually about 8. But we've only got 3 here today because I'm really pleased to announce all the other directors are working. Which is a really, really good thing.
Thanks.
No, sorry about that. Except for these guys, the losers, you know, what can I say?
Good intro.
But no, it's actually, because we've got some across the board of all the nominees, all members of the ADG, and you know, Jane's overseas, she's doing something. Glendon was supposed to be here, but he's flown off to London to direct something for the BBC. Leah is also doing something, as is Kate. It basically, people are actually in the middle of working. So it's always great that we actually get directors for this as well, because it's a tricky time. But we do have the stars of that group here, so everything should be fine for today as well.
And I start work next week.
We will be talking about the director's career as we go through today. So the plan for today is we'd like to keep it fairly informal. I'm going to actually introduce, obviously, the directors, show a clip from the film or TV series they were nominated for, and then we're just going to ask some general questions to get us going. But once we do that, we really encourage you, if you've got questions, to put your hand up. We've got a roving mic somewhere, well, hopefully somewhere around here. So basically we want to get it, oh, there she is, up the back, yep, got the roving mic. So please put your hand up because they're filming this, so obviously we won't be able to hear you if you start the question without the mic. So please wait till the mic gets to you. And let's have a bit of a conversation. We don't have a huge amount of time, so we'll try and cover as much territory as we possibly can. Now I've got to get this in the right order because the clips are in the right order. Right, okay. So I'm going to start with Ben Young, who's in the middle. So Ben's, now I've got to also expand this. There he is, just so I've got his name right. So Ben's a West Australian director. I'm going to say that right up front as well, although he's only spent 3 weeks in West Australia this year, apparently. He's directed short films, TV commercials, music videos, and TV drama. His credits include the TV series Trapped, Castaway, and Prank Patrol. Is that right? Yeah. I'd like to check that. His first feature, and this is his first feature, Hounds of Love, which is nominated for Best Director at the AFTRS Awards, was screened at the Venice Film Festival and is pretty well gone around the world, I'd say, in festivals and screenings, and it's led to a lot of interesting things which we'll explore today. So in a way, Ben's our junior partner here, but not really, because he's done an enormous amount. In fact, one of the things that we get asked when people say, oh, where did that Garth Davis guy come from? A lot of these directors have been working for years, like Garth is a good example, in the commercial world, in a whole range of worlds, defining their craft. So it's only when something bumps out, one of the projects, that you get that name out there as well. Next to him is Mr. Matt Saville on the other side. Hello. Matt's got a huge illustrious career as Australian television director and a film director. So he cuts across, he's a double threat in this situation.
If you count dancing.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'll remember that next time. He's done an enormous number. He's won awards at the Sydney Film Festival and the Australian Writers Guild because he's also an accomplished writer as well. His CV is actually incredibly long. He's done shows like The Secret Life of Us, The Surgeon, Cloud Street, Please Like Me, which he's nominated for, which he didn't unfortunately win yesterday as well, but the fantastic series, yeah, the fantastic series Please Like Me, which we'll see a clip from. His film Felony was selected to screen at the Toronto Film Festival. That's not your most recent film. And his follow-up film, A Month of Sundays, starring Anthony LaPaglia, which was another fantastic film. So he's a director who works across all dramatic mediums as well, as all 3 of these gentlemen do, I would suggest, which is something we also want to talk about today. We want to talk about that idea of career and how it works. So if you've got some questions in that territory. Next, on the other end of the side, is Jeffrey Walker. Jeffrey's best known for his public appearances as an actor in Round the Twist and Ocean Girl. He's, there's fans in the audience. Autographs later. He moved to directing episodes of Australian soaps Neighbours, Home and Away, and H2O Just Add Water. He also directed the US TV series Modern Family, both here and also recently you were back in the States doing Modern Family. Is that right? Yep. So he's also working across countries, which a lot of directors are doing nowadays. And a lot of Australian drama, Rake, Jack Irish, Dance Academy, City Homicide, Raising Hope, which Raising Hope's a US production as well. So again, working between the two countries. His most recent features, almost back to back, were Dance Academy, which you may have seen, and of course the film he's nominated for at the awards, which is Ali's Wedding. So incredible range of work. What I want to do is give you a bit of a look at some of this work first, and then we might get into some questions. So if you could run the first clip, which is Ben Young's Hounds of Love.
You doing something different? You look beautiful. Just like you did the day we met. Now let's go and have a little bit of fun.
Hey, love, do you want a lift?
Yeah, all right.
All right, jump on in.
So how long have you two been together?
Since I was like 13.
Please try and relax. Those girls, all runaways, all with stories just like this one. We usually do it together. And there's just something about you that makes me want you all to myself.
He doesn't love you. He just uses you.
Look at me. Look at me. You're my queen. I worship you.
And if you haven't seen the film, it's a pretty extraordinary ride. That's all I'll say. You can download it and get it on iTunes, I believe, as well. So Ben, I mean, one of the things that's always asked of directors is how you made your first film, how you actually how was it possible after doing shorts and TV drama, etc. And in fact, all three of it's a question you can jump in for all three of you. But that's your first film. It's been incredibly successful. It's probably changed your career in a way, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that. But how did it come about?
I'm really lucky being West Australian because there's not many filmmakers in Western Australia, and we have Scream West, and they like to give away money like all the other ones do, and it's just a lot less competitive than it is over here. And they have this fantastic grant called West Coast Visions, which they give out once a year, and it's $750,000 to a new filmmaker. So I'll call them the lead creatives, as they call them for some reason, the writer, the producer, and the director. Two of those people cannot have a feature credit to apply for this grant, and so I was lucky enough to get that. And then we got a little top up from Screen Australia, but we asked for just under 500. Because then it becomes a grant, not an investment, so you don't have to pay it back. So we made the film on a very low budget, and yeah, so that's kind of, does that answer the question?
Well, it does. I mean, you've got an incredible cast. So
Thank you.
I mean, we're talking about you're talking about quite a low budget film. How did you manage to snare that lot?
Well, I'm really lucky. I used to act as a kid, and I acted in an anti-smoking commercial with Emma Booth when I was 13 years old. And ironically, both of us took up smoking because it was in the days where you could just give a kid a cigarette to smoke. And so, anyway, we smoked together when we were 13, and then we did a series together called The Shark Net when we were like 20, I think. And we've just stayed really tight ever since. So I wrote it for Em, And then I also wrote it for another actor who will remain nameless, but he was a buddy of mine, and I thought that he'd want to do it, and he was just like, I don't want to do this. This is horrible. I was like, oh, okay. And so then we just took it to all the usual suspects, and they all said no because they thought the material was too horrible. And then Anusha, the casting director, suggested Stephen Curry, and I thought, well, that's really interesting. 'Cause I mean, I loved him in your film. You did the Graham Kennedy one, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the great thing about Stephen is he's cheap and available.
Yeah, he's cheap and available. Yeah. And so I watched Matt's...
No reporters here, are there? No reporters.
I watched Matt's film and I thought, oh, this guy can do kind of serious as well. And then, like, the big insecurity that I had about my own script, because I wrote Hounds as well, was the scene where Vicky, the character, gets into the car with the two people. I thought, fuck, if people think, like, why would she just get in that car? Like, the whole film doesn't work. And when Anusha suggested Stephen, I was just like, well, who wouldn't get in a car with Stephen Curry? So, so that's where that came from.
Sorry, can I interrupt?
I mean, you probably wouldn't.
There's a great review of your film, and I've quoted this to Stephen on several occasions. When they talk about how incredible his performance is in the film, and they say Stephen Curry, who is an Australian comedian, apparently.
Does that mean it's just like because he's not very funny? Like,
well, in your film he's not. You know, they're sort of surprised that he's known as a comedian. But I love to kind of quote that back to Stephen and go, apparently you're a comedian.
I mean, the West Coast Vision is a fantastic program, and there's a number of directors coming out of West Australia who've been supported by that program. I'd suggest all the other state governments should have a very close look at that, because it's probably the most successful program in the country to nurture first features. I'll say that as the Australian Directors Guild because we've got members there, but it is.
I'll concur with that, because there is. Sorry, but there is, like, there seems to be in the charters of a lot of the other state and federal that you need to, adhere to some criteria where, to be eligible for support from, you need to have. 2 feature credits. You need to have a film that has been in one of the 5 festivals, and this is like unique in that it is like, well, no, let's go just with this fund, cast it a little bit further out, and it's obviously had great.
Well, there's a few other directors and a few other features coming out.
Yeah, Zach Hilditch, who I went to film school with, he got it the year before me and made These Final Hours, and then he got snatched up by US management, and he's just done a movie for Netflix over there, and so it's
another
good
one
grant.
coming through as well.
Yeah.
So it's been great, but let's just go a bit forward, because when this went to Venice, okay, so you got accepted to Venice, and as I said earlier, your whole life has sort of changed with this film. But I want to pick up on something that Matt said earlier when we were talking about it. I thought you might want to, hope I get it right, but he was just saying how extraordinary to have a suburban film and just accept that it is a suburban Australia and let the story work within that place and not try to do anything, make it funny or make a comment on the suburban lifestyle, but just that's Australia, 1980, whenever exactly that is, and let the story. And I think that's a credit to you. And I think that Matt said earlier, and I agree, because you don't. Yes, you get those little glimpses if you've from that era, but you don't. This is just the world they live in, and it's. I think that's unusual. We can sometimes, I think, get carried away with the suburban in some way. But tell us what's happened since then. I know you spent 3 weeks in Perth and the rest of the time you've spent in America. So clearly, is your now projecting going that way?
It's been a really weird ride. So when I got to Venice, it was very surreal. And I went to go to the festival tent, and they wouldn't let me in. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's like that. I'm just the little Australian film that no one cares about. I finally bluffed my way in there and just was like, no one was interested in talking to me. And I was like, all right, no worries. And then we had the screening the next day, and the cinema was it was filled with all these people. I was going, oh, wow, this is good. I go, fuck, there's Dakota Fanning, she's there, and David Stratton's over there, and wow, this is incredible. And then they played a couple of short films before my film, and then when they finished, half the audience got up and left. Including Dakota Fanning. So I was very upset by that. But the film played, and I thought, oh yeah, this went all right, no worries. And we went and had some drinks afterwards. But then the next day, I woke up and I had I had like 90 missed calls on my phone. And my Facebook had exploded. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And we got a really generous review in Variety. And as a result of, and Hollywood Reporter, and as a result of that, I had all these Americans like trying to hunt me down and we want you, baby. And there was one, an agent was at Venice, the only one who was at Venice, and had actually seen the film. All the others just wanted me because of the review. They hadn't even seen the movie. So I ended up, I signed with UTA kind of almost on the spot. I was very lucky. I already had a manager who is Zach Hilditch's manager as well. And Zach like hooked us up together, which was really nice of him. And then I just got sent all these films, like heaps of them, and they were all really bad. And but I read one and I kind of liked the idea. And then the producer just said, all right, well, will you go and meet James McAvoy? I went, what do you mean? And they said, we'll put you on a plane right now. Go have dinner with James McAvoy. We want him in the movie. I was like, well, I'm back in Australia. I went, yeah, that's okay. And they literally bought me a flight to London the next day just to go and have dinner with James McAvoy. And we drank a lot of wine together. It was fun. But then I ended up going to LA and like pitching this new film around.
Did you get Premier Comedy?
Did I get? No, they get business, business, baby. Yeah, and then I ended up. I was in LA with this movie that I kind of was only half interested in, and then like it got up like all of a sudden, and then less than a year, I went into pre-production on that film on exactly the same day a year earlier. I went into pre with Hounds. So that was really weird. So I lived in Serbia for 6 months shooting this big movie for Universal Studios and alien invasion thing. And then, been in LA ever since, cutting that.
And there's always an interesting question about that in terms of second films. What you choose to do, because a lot of the first films that make, not always, but with a lot of Australian directors, are films that they've had either nurtured or and you wrote Hounds of Love. So you've obviously got a very strong story that you had there that you wanted to tell. And a lot of people say you've got to be careful with your second choices, your second films. And this is a question also for you guys as well, if you want to jump in at any point. Is it important to be careful about your second choice, or did you just say, bugger this one, I'm just going to do this?
I just got swept up in the whirlwind, and I kind of felt pressured into it a little bit. Maybe I'm saying too much, but it just happened before I had time to think about it. Like, I didn't think it would get up because I didn't think the script was in a strong enough spot. But apparently it was good to be attached to a film, so my agents kept telling me. And I had an offer, and then that becomes what you're worth in Hollywood. And so to be attached to something with an offer made me look good, but then it kind of, the movie got financed, and I had to do it. And so it all happened really quickly. And I'm in a hurry to make a third film.
And do you think
I'm going to need to redeem myself.
Yeah. Is the third film going to be an Australian film?
I'm doing a film which Sean Grant has written called A Man with No Enemies, which has been produced by Seesaw, and we are shooting that in first half of next year.
Okay, great.
Oh, but it's set in America. We're shooting it here.
Okay, all right, great. I'm going to move on. We'll come back to as well to the person sitting next to me, Jeffrey Walker, and we might just show. Assuming we've got that clip lined up and... good, okay. We had some technological problems.
Stop the vehicle immediately. Okay. Sorry!
My dad has a saying, a lie begins in the soul and then travels the world.
You follow in the steps of a great man. May you draw upon his wisdom for your exam.
You never told me you were doing medicine.
Didn't know I needed your permission.
What tell me? You got the top mark?
Guaranteed.
University of Melbourne, here we come.
96.2.
There's no man alive smarter than his father.
2. You like enough, honey?
I got 96 also. 0.4.
My son is finally a doctor!
You just told the biggest lie in the world.
We're gonna do medicine together. There's this girl at the mosque.
Diane, she's really nice.
The Lebanese one.
She was born here, wasn't she? You know the rumors we hear about girls born here.
I was born here.
Ah, your sister.
You can't be seen together or speak to her. What would people say? Your father? I know.
You know our daughter, Yumna.
Hello.
G'day.
Hey, this is a tea ceremony. What do I do not to get married? The most important thing is when you drink the tea. Okay, so when do I drink the tea? Early.
He drinks the tea before I have given my approval. The boy is so eager to marry. It is done!
It's weird. When I'm with Diana, I feel like I'm me, you know?
It's weird because you're engaged.
Don't you guys have like 72 wives or something? You've got your hair out.
And you've got a stupid moustache.
Dad, we're meant to believe in miracles, right? I mean, they do happen.
You and I both know we're never going to be as good as him.
Did you get the score you told everyone you got?
Ever since I was a kid, I was introduced as Dr. Ali this and Surgeon Ali that. I didn't have the guts to tell him I was Moron Ali.
What do you want to do?
I just want to make you proud, Dad.
Do you really want to be with me forever?
So tonally, we've sort of moved towards the comic side a bit here, and this is your second feature. So
this was actually the first. This was my first film, but it came out second.
Oh, okay, I was wondering about that because I know they were very close. Because Dance Academy was the other one, and
they were made at the same time. They obviously not shooting at the same time, but they overlapped their post and pre-production and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. You've come from a television background, both as an actor, obviously, but also enormous amount of television, not just here, but in the US. And now you've crossed over into the dark side. No, you've crossed over to the feature film territory. What's your take on it in terms of, as a director, is that where you want to be, in the feature film area, or you see yourself working across all of those mediums all the time? And what's different about, both of you now have worked in America, obviously in different ways, or in Serbia, I should say, and you're working in a network television, really, Modern Family. So where do you think your trajectory is going in terms of the directing? I think as a director, film is a director's medium, much more than I'd say that television is. Even though I think there's more, you've got a little more room in certain television projects now. When I go and work in the States, you're very much a gun for hire, and you slide in and out of the show. With the way that I work on my shows over there, I go in and do an episode of that season, and then I leave again. So you've just got to slide into the tone and whatever of that show, and then you leave. That's quite intense, Matt, but I like it. No, I like it. It's good.
Some people can't resist.
No, it's good. I love it. No, I love it. It's good. With film, but I would say that with the television work that I get to do here, which you certainly get to have more involvement, more of a say. It's just the episodic direction is just its own very unique beast compared to doing a whole miniseries, TV movie, or feature film. But yeah, I loved it. I think all films, they're all like really challenging and tricky for different reasons, but this, particularly Ali's Wedding, was a real joy because it just allowed us to focus in on a community that I don't think Andrew Knight or myself have got to would have had this great reason to go and explore.
I was going to ask you about that because obviously Osama is really the
it is that name. Yes, it is. There's no dodging it.
He got up at the awards when he accepted the award yesterday for best writing. He was he did a comedy routine about being Osama, which was quite funny. But really, and of course Ali won. They won the best screenplay, original screenplay yesterday. So that augurs well for you, I think, in the stakes maybe tomorrow night. But it's. You and Andrew are when you think about it, are an interesting choice to come on. How did you get onto this film?
Well, Andrew had been a part of this. The film had been around forever, which is a pretty common story, I guess, of how long it takes to finance. And the film was, I think, by the time I joined it had already been around for 5 years or 6 years or something, and it had just this imperative to be made all of a sudden. It had to be made, this year. And so I'd known about the film through Andrew for quite a while, having worked with him on Rake and Jack Irish, and we had started to develop some other things. And I'd known about this film, and he really liked it and really liked Osama, and, he knew that I would get along with Osama. So we had been speaking about it peripherally for, a couple of years. And then he kindly put me in touch with Matchbox, probably about 5 months or something before pre-production started, and and it was a pretty confronting first read, not because it's a deep and heavy subject matter. It was more that it wasn't a world that I knew instinctively or inherently. I had to really begin the journey. I understood what it was at the core of it and the themes and, what was going to make it tick and hum along as a movie. But just aesthetically, I couldn't quite place it all and so on, and didn't know what the women's section was of the mosque, and I just didn't know all the intricacies and so on. So once that initial wave of being daunted, had sort of passed, and then I was able to read Osama's book, then it all... which is a fabulous read, by the way. If you did see the film and you like it, the film makes up about a chapter and a half of his book, just to give you an indication of how absurd his life's been, up till this, to the age of 30 or whatever. So, called Good Muslim Boy. So yeah, so those combined things, I had a much deeper understanding then of who he was and what this film needed to be, and then I was the Johnny-come-lately, really, because compared to all those guys who'd had to go that long journey, I got to swan in at the last minute.
Whereas with Dance Academy, obviously you directed the TV series, so
that was really unusual, because we had cast that. I had been on their very first episode of the series, and I think this maybe did like 50 episodes or something, but I was just there at the very start, and so we'd cast all those young actors as 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and then they'd had these 3 seasons of shows, gone off and made other movies and done different things or moved away from acting and whatever. And then we got to have this very bizarre sort of reunion, which was, as they're now all young, in their early 20s, and they're like the characters in that film. They're all sort of on the cusp of, taking the next step and trying to figure out what kind of adult they're going to be, and so, yeah, that was, starting a film that was completely cast 7 years before you or 8 years before you start shooting is a very strange thing too.
Well, just speaking about casting with Ali, it's because you really got a lot of newcomers in that film, of course, because you obviously wanted to cast authentically within the community that you're representing. How did you find that? Was Osama very much involved with that process right from the get-go, and how did that work?
Well, we had Alison Meadows was our casting person, and she had done Snowtown, which I thought was so beautifully, it's like that ensemble is just a knockout, and I knew that this would need a kind of an unusual approach. It wasn't going to be a sort of, we'll send the offers out and away you go, kind of process. And so between Osama and her, they were getting in touch with so many of the far reaches of, the Iraqi community, Egyptian community, and she found there's a fella in that who's, I think, 80, and he's a very famous, television actor in Iraq, and had moved out to a very remote part of WA somewhere. I'm not sure where exactly, but anyway, he was off the grid altogether, and somehow they tracked him down. He was able to come over and be in the film, and he didn't speak English, so we just made him that he speaks Arabic, and that's great. And so it was I think seeing that ensemble come together. I have to say, like when Helena was cast as Diane, I think everyone went, this is gonna be great. I think there was a nervousness about how you're going to cast. Also for like casting such a big part of every movie, that's what attracts, so many of your audience and your budget, your financing people and all this sort of stuff. So, but she was just so good, and I think she brought out, the best in Osama as an actor as well, and she's just a, wonderful talent. She sort of anchored the movie.
Well, also because it's his story. And he's written a book about it. He's written the screenplay, and he's in the movie. He's obviously had it's really, in a way, you could say it's his film across that board. Did you feel you were servicing that vision very much?
Yeah, I think he was extreme. He's such a nice guy, but he was very respectful of the fact that I was the director of it, and that as I wisely did with my experienced cinematographer, he lent on me, and because I'd sort of been through multiple shoots and stuff before, I certainly hadn't made a film, but enough to sort of navigate what this journey would be for him, and yeah, it was a great joy. But he was very respectful and understood that I was there to do that, and also because he's now like an extroverted, confident 30-year-old, but when this was all going on, he was in his early 20s and was still learning English and was shy and never spoke to girls, and so it was sort of getting him to find his inner meek, so that he could navigate that film in that way. But so he still had to work for it, and we made him audition. Isn't that cruel? Why would you do that to him? And,
wow! I'd like to have been at that
brutal.
Audition. That would have been interesting.
Like, are we doing this? Oh, yeah, we're doing this. Yeah.
I'm going to ask all three of you to think about something. A question that I want you to answer at the end of this is advice you would give someone who's starting out in their career. What would be the best piece of advice you could give as a director to someone who wants to be a director? Don't need to answer that now. Okay, we'll answer that towards the end. But we might move on to another piece of comedy, or do you want to jump in first?
Can I just ask Jeffrey a question? And this might be interesting for everybody, or not. But Ben and I think we come from like light cameras and lenses and watch lots of Scorsese films, and that's how we got in. Jeffrey came into the business, in another way, you were an actor from a very young age, and I remember you telling me that you were on set, and you sort of saw that all those guys behind the camera are having much more fun, and I think you first aspired to be like an AD.
I wanted to be a
something.
grip. That was my number one thing.
And then you kind of got demoted to director, and so the reason I raised this is because the way you just talked about your process and everything more than most directors is you talk 90% of the time about casting and acting, and obviously that comes from your past.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the actual acting itself, because of all the things that Matt was talking about. I was so enamored with all the stuff that was going on around. Like, everything behind the lens was infinitely more interesting and fascinating. Everything was shot on film, and film was this magic potion that was, everything about it was just, was sort of fascinating to me about all that sort of stuff. And I think that my time acting, I don't think that as I was a kid actor, it seems like such a long time ago that I was, an actor, but certainly being on set and knowing what that process was and what it felt like to carry all those lines in your head and everything. But it was that time that it afforded me to be on set was the great treat, I think.
I guess what I find fascinating though, and look, it's because like I'm always investigating the way that other directors work, and I do that through location recce's, and tech checks with, so we work with like the same crew quite often,
yes.
And they're like a sewing circle. They all sort of gossip about us.
What's Matt like?
And what's he, what would Matt, and so, you gather intel, and I just find it fascinating that because I've worked with a lot of crew that work with you as a young actor and a child actor, and how you were just constantly going up to the camera department and asking what lens they were using, and
annoying the crap out of them, I think.
But just being so focused on the technique, and then now sort of sitting next to you as a adult director and going back and talking about you didn't mention one lens, and I know that you were fascinated about it.
Yeah.
But you've gone back to talking about your old childcraft, which is
it's
acting.
Funny. I mean,
it's weird, isn't it?
It's very true. I mean, I think that, I started from that place. When I started directing, I think completely unlike you guys. I think that your directors who had, particularly because this is your first film, like you are a storyteller using film as your medium to tell that story. And I came at directing because I had been on set a lot. Like, that was it. It wasn't like... And I'd watched a ton of movies and I was fascinated by it all, but I didn't start from a place of I have a unique voice and I'm going to imbue each thing that I work on, with that. And that took like 5 or 6 years, to even have an inkling of, what that was. So, and so initially it was only and exclusively the craft stuff that that you were talking about. That's sort of one thing I felt confident I could shoot a schedule and that I understood what the camera would have to do and how to run the day or whatever. And then it's I think the progression, like on Ali's wedding, both Don McAlpine and I decided to sort of we just didn't want to almost get in the way of the movie and what the what the audience's feeling would be. I think Dance Academy is a little more stylized and has a bit more trickery and different stuff. But this that one we tried to get out of it. And I never when I've watched the film, I don't think it's like the type of film that you watch and it's an aesthetic, challenging kind of aesthetic. It's much more that you either engage with it, in those actors, or you don't. So I think that's why that project has made me probably zero more in on the cast than I might on other things.
Yeah,
we
could go on forever.
We could. We'll come back to some of this stuff as well, but we might just move on to the final clip of a little show that this man on the end...
I warn you, this is television.
Hey, Matt. Here he is, big man.
Everybody's very dressed up.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to see you too. Oh my God, yeah, I've been doing sports, Dad. Thank you for noticing.
How expensive is this place?
Yeah, okay, I'm buying you and Mum a nice dinner, okay? You're worried about Mum, I was worried about Mum. I just thought it might be nice if I bought you guys dinner.
Well, you could have told me to wear a nice shirt.
Oh, don't be modest. That is a beautiful shirt.
Really? Sure about it.
Lock up your daughters, everyone, because Alan's here. Alan is here to do things with your daughters.
Thank you.
Sex things. Hey, Ma. Hey.
How are you, Rose?
Oh, yes. Good.
Can I take your coat?
Oh, yes. I'm Josh's mum.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll be fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't need to see the titles.
I think you probably know the series, please, like me, and it's been a phenomenal success. And I said to Matt, actually, I said, why did you stop? Why did they stop making it? Because it was, it was fantastic, and I might let you.
Well, Mum died. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
If you haven't seen that last series, no.
Yeah, no. It was Josh's call. Good question. I thank the minister. It was Josh's call. We'd done 4 seasons. We didn't actually ever expect that we'd do more than one, to be honest. But it sort of went full circle. The series starts with Josh dealing with the fact that his mother is attempted, and then in the penultimate episode of the 4th season, successfully attempts, and it just felt like full circle. We heard before anybody else, they did the ring around and said we're killing it, and we, all of the cast and crew, we all sort of texted each other and PM'd each other on Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, what, and then after about 15 minutes, we were like, no, this is the right thing. It's the right thing to do. Just get out while it's still interesting.
And you do enormous range of television drama, because you're doing, you're talking comedy, straight drama. I was watching the last episode of the Easy Beats, which Matt directed. An enormous range of television work as well. There we go. Hey, you got the shirt on as well. But also, like these gentlemen,
these are available in the foyer.
You've directed features as well. I'll put that same question which I put to Jeffrey. Where do you see yourself working across those mediums continuing? You don't have a problem with that. It just depends on the projects. Are the features more about stories that you want to tell, and the television's more, things that you're interested in doing and jobs you get offered?
Yeah, I've never made the distinction. It's always been, for me, it's like the script, and do I like the people involved, and is your schedule all right, and cab charges and accommodation, and like Zetland, really? You're going to put me on Zetland? No, it's a joke. Yeah, no, I don't really, and there's an incredible Italian cinematographer called Vittorio Storaro who said, this is like 8 years ago, so this is old coin. He said the television's getting bigger and the cinemas are getting smaller, and I think that's very true. Like these plasma screens, like the experiences, and I rock up on set. I don't know, it's a TV show or it's a film. It's still an Arri Alexa. It's still Cook Primes,
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't this distinction between. It's like Susie Porter's there. It could be a TV show, or it could be a film. I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's just Susie Porter.
It's what we were talking about yesterday at the awards, because we were talking about the idea that really television has become the feature film.
Well, what I think, here we go with what I think. Mind your step. Everyone's sort of talking about, the parlor state of the Australian film community. I think that the problem is there is a parlor state with independent cinema, not Australian cinema. And Australian cinema, by definition, is independent because it's not studio. And the studios are doing these tentpole pictures. It's because they're owned by big Japanese companies that want to cross-pollinate into, franchises and sell toys, and like there's a whole, have a theme park ride, and that's the way they decide what their slate is next year, not whether or not it's a good film or a good story. And the cost of that is, first and foremost, adult drama. If it's an adult, you can't make a ride. Lantana, I actually pitched this to Warner Brothers, and they turned it down. I don't know if you've seen Noise. Thank you. I pitched to Warner Brothers. I wanted this at Warner Brothers Movie World. I wanted Noise the ride. It was going to be the only stationary ride. Like, you don't move, right? And the idea of the ride was it was going to be a caravan. You pay $10, and they dressed you up in a police uniform and gave you a cup of tea and some earphones that went like that for 10 minutes, and a bogan came in and abused you. And they didn't go for that.
No, yeah, I can, yeah. I wonder
Okay,
why.
so what I'm going to put this. I'm going to put a nail in this. Television, I think, has filled that gap. Like the Lantanas that existed 15 years ago that aren't in cinemas now. They're the slaps and they're the. So I think there's a renaissance in television at the moment, and that's at the cost of independent cinema at the moment. I don't know how the cycle's going to turn. As long as I get a cab charge, I don't care.
Ben, I mean, what do you think about that? And I'd like all your opinions on that, because really, one could say then that television is the independent cinema now, in terms of telling stories and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to answer the question. I guess so. What's the question?
Well, as a director, I mean, basically as a director, and I asked this before, where you guys see yourselves working, primarily to tell stories. And it seems that from what Matt and I were talking about yesterday,
Vimeo.
That's a whole other discussion, obviously. But it seems like the independent cinema, and let's be frank, for Australians and Australian directors, is the toughest it's ever been. It's not getting any easier, and to get a film on, even a successful film, to keep it in the cinemas for longer than a week and a half in Australia is a tough call. Whereas, a Netflix series or a Foxtel series, 6 or 8 parts, Secret City, Kettering, I don't know, whatever, seems to be the place that people are trying to tell bigger stories. So where I see myself in all of that is, I mean, I don't really know. I've never thought of myself as a director or as a writer. I always think of myself as just a filmmaker. And so I just want to tell stories, and I want to do it visually, and wherever they end up, I don't really care, just so long as I have fun doing it. And just the way that it's gone is I did 2 movies back to back, and I'm doing another one, so 3. I will have done 3 back to back. But I'm not just exclusively interested in film. I'll do anything if I can connect to the characters and find something that I want to say within the material. Well, which is what's happening, because we're talking David Fincher is doing a lot of television. All the big directors who just did feature films are doing all this television stuff. They're moving between those mediums, and that's clearly because of the storytelling, the place to tell the stories. I think
there's sometimes a problem with the nomenclature, and people want to sort of like apply, and use this word cinematic. Which that's cinematic, and that used to kind of like when you were talking about David Lean, that that word made sense, but people would talk to me about cinematic, and what I could say and still can say in all honesty is that I've made a couple of films and I've worked in in television, and the most quote unquote cinematic piece that I've ever done by a long shot is a TV show, which is Cloud Street. So if you want to apply what I understand as inverted commas cinematic, that show has more cinema in it than the 3 pieces of cinema I've done. So I think these are kind of like amorphous terms now.
Well, yeah, except I'd be curious to explore that. I mean, we might have the time here. We probably have to open up to you guys soon. But do you direct differently? I mean, because if you're shooting a feature film, and this is a question for all three of you because you've all shot feature films, and you're directing, you know, a 20-episode TV series. Now, obviously, the schedules are different and all that sort of stuff. Just take that out of the equation. But in terms of your craft, do you direct differently? Do you think about it being in this, or do you think about it being in this?
I'm going to jump in and let these guys do really quickly. No. I don't think about the dissemination medium. I don't think about whether or not it's going to be watching on an iPhone or an iPad or a plasma or here. I think about the text and the story and whether or not the story is intimate or if the story is grand, or if the scene is intimate or if the scene is grand.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I found it extremely similar because both the films that I made were, you know, really short shoots. They didn't have, you know, big budgets, so there was none of that. It felt like doing a really good TV show. You know, that was how it sort of. It didn't feel like the biggest thing that when I tried to, you know, crew up and surround myself with people who had made films so that I could, you know, lean on them as heavily as I could. Their inclination, people who had worked a lot in film as opposed to, you know, just in TV or whatever, is that they were very encouraging of making the bold choice, you know, which I think is something that I'm now going to, you know, imbue maybe a bit more of the TV work with it. But there is sometimes it's like you just, you know, trim off the edges a little bit in TV sometimes because of schedules and different things and budget, or you know, we don't have enough money to have all those extras or whatever. And I was the one sort of common thread of the filmmakers that I was trying to surround myself with just that they would make, you know, try and make the bold choice, and then, you know, that'll hopefully the sum of all of those make for a bigger experience when you watch it.
The stuff that you were doing on Jack Irish, for example. I mean, not in terms of the stuff that you were doing on Jack Irish, not in terms of like car chases and stuff like that, but otherwise, it's very filmic, yeah.
I think so. I think I probably have a bit of a traditional approach to, you know, the way that that I shoot things, and I certainly did want to be as, you know, like you were saying, as filmic as possible. But I think, like, I see lots of wonderful handheld shot, you know, feature films that to me are as cinematic as, you know, Catherine Bigelow's films are always like they're as movie as they get, but, you know, it's like handheld cameras in all the corners and all that sort of stuff. So it's, you know, it's not. I'm just totally with you. I think that there's a spectacle about a David Lean film that makes that a film, you know, or a cinematic experience, and I think the rest of it is really, you know, sort of up for grabs. And I just had, you know, I know that they are very similar. I learned a huge amount from going through the making the two films that I know it will make and has made me, you know, already a better director. But yeah.
Questions from the audience, please. If you straight away, okay. Front row, okay. Come down here. Microphone's on the way.
I guess I want to know how clear your vision is going into a film and how much room you guys give to play with actors when doing a scene in terms of blocking or just, you know, the day in general.
Hounds of Love was 100% storyboarded. The entire film was done that way. And I knew, but partly just because I only had 20 days to shoot this thing. And so it was like, we gotta get moving, dudes. And so it was just a way of communicating my vision as clearly as I could to everybody. And so, you know, we could do it faster.
What did you do in the afternoon?
Smoked pot. and then we and the thing with the actors is I gave them heaps of freedom, and so particularly Emma and Steve. We did a lot of improvisation. Like I always, because I wrote the script, I wasn't precious to it. I just thought, like, all right, this is just the blueprint. If you have a way, if you want to make this more your own, just make it more your own. And that scene, if anyone, spoiler alert, if anyone hasn't seen the film or has seen the film, there's a scene with Emma Booth and Ashley Cummings at the end, and Emma is trying to make her take all these pills, and she's going, stab me, all improvised. Like I had this like there was a version of that scene there, but it wasn't taking place at the kitchen table. There was no dialogue in it, and it just kind of, I think it just ticked off a script. It felt very functional, and I didn't believe the scene. And the day before we shot it, I was just like, this scene sucks. It's like it does what it's supposed to do, but it's just not any good. So I called the actors an hour and a half early the next morning. That's Emma, Steve, and Ash. Yes, and they were like, all right, so how are we going to do this scene today? Why have you called us early? I said, well, we're not going to do the scene. I said, I've got this other idea. And I just pitched them an idea, and we just improvised it, and we just came up with this little idea for how the scene would play out. And we didn't write any of the dialogue down, just like, all right, I'm going to go over here and do this, and then you're going to do this. And we tried to do it with no dialogue at the beginning, and like the note that I kept giving Ash, it was like, no, like challenge her more. And she's going, well, you don't want me speaking. I said, well, fucking speak. Just speak then if you want to. And she just came up with that monologue, which ended up in the film, and I was like, all right, we got that. So we did it in one take because that's lunch, and then so lots of freedom. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer. No, it's great.
Yeah, I like being really prepared. I've never storyboarded a whole piece. I've certainly done scenes here or there or whatever. But I love, thinking about it, drawing my little plans and, shot lists or whatever else. But that's only so that I feel confident enough to go in there and then throw it all away. I think that I would have like the panic attack if I turned up and there were wonderful directors who work this way, so this isn't like, the wrong way to do it. But coming in and going, oh, okay, well, I'm not really sure. Maybe you start over there, and it helps me to have some place to start. But I think, the great thing that I almost remember when it happened, that if an actor came up with another idea early on, I would kind of freak out and get really nervous. And what if it puts you on the wrong side of the line, and I've got to do another shot now, and that's a turnaround. I'm worried about all this. And now I think all of that's quite effortless, how the fix will be. And if they've now taken a bit of ownership over some blocking and, or a new line delivery, or like, Ben's very generous in saying it, because I like doing the same, which is if the words aren't working, let's try something, well, let's do an alt, so that then we've got it both ways. All that sort of stuff, I'm a very big supporter of that.
In terms of storyboard, my graduate film at VCA 22 years ago, I storyboarded because I thought that's what you do. And so every frame, every shot. And it was before Jerry Lewis had invented splits. So I'd look through the viewfinder and my storyboard and adjust the shot to the... She says, no, it's not exactly, and I tell the actor, no, you look at the board, No, you got to stand there, because look, it's on I boarded it, damn it. And strangled the film. It was just dead, So I haven't storyboarded since. I mean, like, I've done a little bit of, like, if you're doing a car chase or something, somebody wants to know where to park the car, so you got to like scratch out but I've never done that since. And I like to work very much like Jeffrey just described, which is let the actors come in and just sounds so wanky, but just take your space. You're the character. Where would you, as a character, like to stand? And then try and kind of work out whether or not we've got an angle there. And then if you can't get an angle, can you just go up and go, can you like stand there instead? And and it tends for me to work a bit better than like the stuff I sort of scratched out in my hotel room in Zetland last weekend. No.
Other questions? Other questions here? I'm going to go back to my question I had at the beginning, which is if you had a piece of advice, okay, and you're all at different stages of your career and you've done different things, so it's, advice will change over the years as you, change your view. But if, giving it this, not everyone here, who wants to be a director in the room? Let me put your hand. Oh, excellent, great, okay. And we've got other directors in the room as well. Not a director nominated for an actor, but her film's been nominated for a lot of actors. Priscilla, put your hand up. There you go. Someone. It's a hard gig directing a film. I'd say I don't direct films, but I watch a lot of these guys and girls direct, and it's a hard gig to get one up. It's pretty amazing. So I think it's always worth acknowledging when people do get them up. And your first film too, isn't it? Yeah. So really important. So what if you had? Maybe you got 2, 3, 4 pieces. I don't mind. I mean, what's something you think that you could impart to a group who wanted to be a director that you would help them or would say, oh, don't do this, don't ever do this?
It's not mine. It's like an old showbiz anecdote. And it sounds flip, but if you think about it, which I have, it's not very. I'll tell the anecdote, but first, I'll just say what I think, which is don't mimic filmmakers you admire. I mean, you admire them and watch their stuff, but you've got your own story. You know, you've got your own childhood, your own upbringing, your own parents, your own circle of friends, your own experiences, and you can draw on your film diet, and then, you know, obviously you become directors because you love the medium, and that's, you know, you go to restaurants and you know, like if you like food, you go to restaurants, and if you like film, you go to, but just kind of go and get your own ingredients and work out how to cook it yourself, you know, and if you have that voice rather than this lovely imitation or impersonation of somebody else, I think even if that gets you a career, I just think that it's not going to be as rewarding as telling your story, and your friends and family are going to thank you for that as well, you know, because, you know, I made this film that, like, didn't make any money and had mixed reviews, but it was about my mum and dad, and they loved it, and that's kind of like, that was the greatest piece of direction. Like, I'm very proud of myself, you know, and they're in their 80s, they're going to die, but they saw the film, and it was my little Valentine to them, and I know that's probably indulgent to use the taxpayers' money to just, like, you know, I could have just sent them a Christmas card or something, but, you know, but, the hell with it. But my anecdote, and it's not mine, it's Steven Spielberg's. Steven Spielberg was very passionate about film, you know, ever since he was about as young as Jeffrey Walker, and he dropped out of high school and he got a job sweeping floors at Universal, and he'd heard that Alfred Hitchcock was on the lot that day, and he worked out what studio was going to be in what room, and he decided, I'm going to sweep that floor, you know, when Hitch is there. And so he inveigled himself into that room, and he's sweeping the floor, and Hitch was doing something, and it was at the end of his career. And he managed to get over to Hitch, and he said, hello, my name is Steven Spielberg, and I very much want to be a director, and I was just wondering if you had any advice for a young man that would like to be a director. And Hitch apparently said, wear comfortable shoes.
That is very good advice.
Yeah. I know, only a director would.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, your feet. Whew. Yeah.
Like a nurse.
Yeah. I realised really early into film school that I was in fact talentless, and if I was ever going to be a filmmaker, I was going to have to work harder than everybody in the room. And so that's exactly what I did. I wrote 9 feature films. All of them got rejected by everybody until Hounds of Love. I made 12 short films that got rejected by every festival in the world. And I made music videos that were so awful that they made the bands break up. Yeah. I got accused of ruining John Butler's career in a thing once.
That's why they're not a trio.
I know, that's it. But so the advice is just make a lot of really bad stuff because you'll get better at it. And so just don't let those festival rejections or the Screen Australia rejections get you down. Just go, all right, well, I've learnt something, and I'm going to get a little better as a result of having done it, because it wasn't quick for me. I didn't make one short and get a feature up. I made 12 that stank, and none of them had anything to do with me getting the feature up, I assure you. So yeah, just keep at it.
It's like Johnny Depp in Ed Wood, you know. It's just like, worst film we've ever seen. Well, my next one will be better. You know?
Exactly.
I think that's yeah. I mean, it's just there's no easy I think you're right. It's a war of attrition. Basically, you know, you're going to have to come through and do things that are, you know, that either you've generated and don't like, or you're working on something that, you know, you don't quite connect with or whatever. But I will say also, just to echo what Matt said, is that the being unique is so vital, because ultimately, like when I do these shows, like they might have in the States sometimes 10 or 15 directors working across a season of a show. But you can still stand out, you know, because even within, like, the audience will never know in a million years one episode from the next if you've done a good job, but everybody else will, and certainly the producers will, and you can still find something in there that is unique to you, and it comes through. And that's where I've when I've felt a bit, not soul destroy, but when you're certainly like directing something that you feel like is not your baby in any way, you're really coming in, knowing that your voice is still sort of finding its way in there. Is something that that I really enjoy, and I think that's what, ultimately in the end, there's an expectation that by the time any of us get hired to do something, we're going to point the camera at the right person and, get a performance that might be pretty good, and away they go. But the difference will be is that, I like Matt. Matt's going to be great for this project. So the expectation is already there that in a cinematic sense, a visual sense, he'll deliver on all that. He'll put together a great cast and crew and do all of this. But I want Matt's voice in this, in this piece. And I have to say too, I've told Matt this already, but everything that Matt does is I'll watch every time. It doesn't matter if you're in comedy or you're in drama or whatever. There's a big cuddle. I've told him this already. He knows I love him. But Matt was someone that I was watching, I think, as Kingston pointed out, move between comedy and drama, but there was have to block your ears, but there was like a bar of excellence that was, no matter what thing that you were doing, I knew that it would be good because you were doing it. And and a director knows what another director does, and that's what and producers know too. So, that's where they could watch Ben's film and say, we want Ben to come on and do this piece, and that's you. That's not your craft, and it's not the skill, it's just you. So that's mine. There it is.
There is stage 2 advice as well. I mean, this question is kind of like, how do you break in? And that's tough. And everyone's got a different story about how they get in. Like there are a lot of doors, and you just got to find the one that's ajar. And that's tough. But there is one. Always know there is one. When you do get through that door, the other piece of advice that I would give, and I think you guys can, is that you become privileged because you're this director and you work with cast and crew that are far more experienced than you, have so many more hours, flying hours than you do, and what the process I try to use is always try to build this team around me where I'm the dumbest person in the room, which is quite easy. and also, I think I've seen a lot of directors make the mistake of thinking they're the director, and so they are kind of morally obliged to be right all the time. Admit you're wrong. Admit that, I don't know. You're the actor. You tell me how to act, or... I worked with this DOP once, and I tried this. I was like, I think we'll do a wide shot back here. So, back on sticks on here, on maybe a 40mm mark. It was Mark Wareham, and Mark goes, just tell me what shot you want, and I'll tell you what lens it is. And I was like, oh right, sorry. And he pointed it out. He said it beautifully. He said, Matt, you don't buy a dog and do the barking yourself. That's quite right. Hire an editor and let them edit. Hire an actor and let them act. Get a production designer and make them do the production design. Do you know? And then take the credit later. Yes.
See you at the AFTRS Awards.
Yeah, I lost that. Yeah. Don't tell the writers. Oh, there probably are still writers here. A film by. We won't go down that path.
I've never done that, and that's the one thing I hate. The only thing I hate about Peter Weir's films is that he puts the film by Peter Weir. It's the only thing I don't like about his films. Every other frame of everything he's ever shot, I just go, that's art. But I just don't agree with that premise that you can't. I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's an ongoing discussion that goes on, I think, particularly between writers and directors, I think, more than anyone else. But it's a team effort, there's no doubt, between making a film. the directors tend to be the team leaders in most of the cases, and you know, in some cases, like with Hounds of Love, you obviously, more than the team, you've also come up with the idea for the whole thing. So it's a variety of roles you play, I think, too.
You're a host at a dinner party, an interesting dinner party. Yeah, it's kind of like you're lucky enough to be the host of an interesting dinner party, you know, and you just invite all these, like, oh, we'll get, you know, and you know, we'll sit Jeffrey next to Ben, and we'll, you know, and that's kind of the fun of it, really. Yeah.
I mean, it's varying opinions on that, and it's you know how that all works, and as well. But it's a creative process as well. We've probably got time for maybe one or two more questions if there are any. This will be your last chance. Oh yes, up the back.
Hi, the question for Jeffrey. What was it like for you to direct a culture from a different actors from a different background, different culture? Did you have to study it to learn it? Was it a different experience?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was the highlight. Honestly, it was the highlight of the gig. You know that I spent a long time with Osama in the lead up. You know, to sort of get a sense of it all. But when I was reading the script, like I was saying before, I really didn't know what their house looked like. I just didn't know. I knew a little bit, but I didn't know enough to like go, yeah, I know exactly how that's going to all, you know, go. So yeah, I spent as much time as I could. I went to, you know, a ton of mosques, and I was made to feel extremely welcome, even though we'd often turn up unannounced, you know, or whatever. We'd sometimes it would be prearranged. They come and show us because we need to set design the mosque and all this sort of stuff. Sometimes we just turn up and, you know, so. And then we would be invited into people's homes all the time from, you know, the Iraqi community and Osama's friends. And yeah, I mean, I had a sense when we started to do that process, how beautiful and wonderful, how welcomed I was feeling, that I sort of feel like I know the way that this story is going to be, you know, going to come across. But I know I can absolutely speak for Andrew as well, that the Osama's co-writer, that getting to explore that culture and going into that world, and then, you know, finding the binding, you know, humanity in that, you know, to everyone else is that was the treat.
I think we're probably out of time, aren't we? Yeah, we sort of are. So that's a good one to finish on. I'd like to thank our directors, Matt Saville.
Thank you, guys.
Ben Young.
Thank you for
Jeffrey
coming
Walker. And good luck for two of you tomorrow night. You know, no fighting as we go out. And all that. That's right. And good luck, Priscilla, with yours too.
I think we know that. We're going to go.
Yes.
And thank you to Kingston.
Yay,
Kingston. You want to be a member of the Guild, come and speak to me. If you want to be a member of ASDAX, and they think, what's ASDAX? ASDAX is the collection society that collects money for directors. Very good thing to be part of. So please come and have a talk to me down here. Thanks.